Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is Carl's Roller Coaster Podcast.
And
as long as it's for recording and mono
Exactly.
or whatever. Look at you, man. Look at this.
you all sorted, right?
Here, I'm taking a picture of you. This is my view with
This
the
is
bozo
my
nose.
view. And speak up on the
Okay,
phone.
Look. Okay.
Let's see if your level is good for me here.
Okay, wait. Check 1, 2, check. Oh, I love house.
Perfect.
I need a little more compression. Okay, hold on, I'm doing this right now. I'm gonna post my view right now. Cool?
Cool. It's not a view from the stage, but
My view right now. Interview.
is of this gorgeous, beautiful, good-looking man,
With what's your Carl?
Carl Casagrande.
I see it right there. And what's the show called?
Roller Coaster Carl. At Roller Coaster Carl.
Oh,
One
okay.
word.
For Carl Roller Coaster.
Yes.
It's not coming up, but is that it?
If it's oh no, it's Carl in the end. Roller Coaster Carl.
Oh,
Yeah. That's why he didn't show up probably.
Roller Coaster
Roller Coaster.
Carl. There it is, Roller Coaster Carl. Oh, it's Carl's Roller Coaster Carl.
Yeah. Well, actually, it is Carl's Roller Coaster Podcast, but I couldn't get Carl Roller Coaster, so
Got
I
it.
just registered the other way around.
Okay,
Sweet.
you made a stupid face and it's on this forever.
Oh damn!
I told you, man. I said
Great.
smile. You made the dumb face.
Damn.
Okay,
All right, so let me just
that one's gone.
that one's good. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. Hello, Bill.
What's happening?
Good to have you here, my friend.
Good to be here. How long have we known each other now? 2013?
2013.
Yep.
That's it.
6
Yeah,
years.
6 years. 6 years.
A month before I got the call.
Very true, but by that point you were already gigging with them, weren't you?
I did the fill-in thing, and then Richie came back, and then 2 years went by, and then I got the call, and he didn't come back, so still here.
I'm still here. Amazing. We're definitely going to get into that, but I'd like to start saying thank you. Thank you for taking the time for being here. It's
Thanks
a
for the
pleasure.
ride on the tube.
That was fun, wasn't it?
Mind your step.
Mind your step.
Mind the
Mind the
gap,
gap.
I'm sorry.
Mind the gap. And
Mind
it's
the
it's a good time to travel right now. If we had taken the tube, it would have been crazy. It's starting to get into rush hour, but
Yeah.
much better than taking Uber or a taxi, because we would still be there probably on the way to here.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time, being a guest. It's with great pleasure that I'll have this conversation with you. Lots of things that I want to talk to. Maybe not so much about music or what you're talking about. Of course, it's going to be about music, a lot about music. That's what.
That's why we're here, man.
That's why we're here, man. Right?
Well, that's why I'm in the city.
That's why you're in the city. That's right. Wow. What's actually happening?
Well, I played in Liverpool last night, and then jumped on a jet. I sound like a dick. I jumped on a jet, and then I woke up in London.
That was an interesting one, because I really wanted to ask that, and I think that's people that follow like life on the road from their idols. They have those little what they do, what happens. But you're just telling me that after the show, because I personally would want to take a shower after the show, but that's not exactly what happened last night, isn't it?
No, we if you take more than 30 seconds to get to the van after a gig, from the stage to the van, you get stuck in concert traffic and you don't get out. So these guys have been doing this for 30 years. They know this shit, right? So my first gig in Europe in 2013, I believe it was June or May, and it was basically, they said, we're doing a runner tonight. I'm like, I don't know what that is. What's that? Oh, from the stage to the van and gone. And if we're staying the night, we go to the hotel, take our stage clothes off in our rooms separately, put them outside the door, and then someone comes and picks up all our stage clothes so they're ready for the next show.
In Europe,
Yeah.
that happens in Japan. But
Any stadium. If it's an arena, like in the U.S., we'll probably stay for a little bit, and then we'll all leave. But in a stadium, you don't want to get caught in that kind of traffic because it's 40 to 60 to 80,000 people. Like I'll get to that. If we're flying to another city that night, like we did last night, you actually jump in a van, go to the airport, take your stage clothes off in the jet, and then it goes in a big duffel bag that goes back to the venue. It's like
there's some logistics there.
There's some connecting the dots there.
How many people is actually the traveling party, the crew at the moment, that is on the road with you guys?
That's an actual number I don't know. I want to say, okay, there's 7 in the band, obviously. But on the road, we have a road manager, and the promoter's always with us, and John's manager's with us, and then there's a chiropractor and an acupuncturist and a vocal coach, and that's the tight group. And then outside of that are the techs, and we have a
stage manager, production manager.
Yes, they stay with the stage.
Right.
Yeah.
And the tour manager is always with you.
The band,
yeah, with the band.
Yeah.
All the time.
All the time. He's the guy that, are we doing dinner tonight? I text him, he goes yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
Or he's the guy, hey, there's a band dinner at 8 o'clock, be in the lobby at 7:15. That kind of thing.
And if there's like, if it's like a last minute issue, technical issue, for example, happens, and then production manager or stage manager reports to who? Would they report to the tour manager?
Well, yeah, they say, hey, something's happening with the stage, so everybody be prepared, or even with weather. It's gonna rain tonight, bring some dry clothes kind of thing.
But who passes the information?
It will come straight to us.
Right.
Yeah. They'll probably tell our road manager, we have a group WhatsApp. Like we're real people. and then if I'm thinking, hey, I didn't like how that guitar sounded last night.
So Evan, just
lower the pickup.
Just a quick question. So it is WhatsApp.
WhatsApp, yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
because in America, WhatsApp's not such a big thing, isn't it?
Well,
Or is it?
Well, it is, but in America, you could just text because there's no charges.
Well, yeah, I guess if it's only the case if you are an Apple user, then you can send an iMessage to each other. But if I text someone in Denmark, for example, I'm going to be charged.
Well, we do WhatsApp to everybody because not everybody has an iPhone. So the cool thing is, like I said, like last night, there was a guitar that really looks amazing. It's a Framus and it's chrome paint and it's got this glow-in-the-dark meteor crash on it, and it just looks wicked. But it doesn't sound. It hasn't been sounding as good as the other guitars. So, before the last show, I said, "Hey, let's lower the pickup, the back pickup. Maybe it's just too hot." And then, and Mark was like, he's my tech. He goes, "Hey, why don't we try the guitar tonight? Because you lowered the pickup." And I go, "Okay." So now I want to wake up and I go, "Hey man, how'd the guitar sound last night?" Like it's me, it's hard to tell with in-ears. It still is hard for me to adjust to. Because in May, I did 4 drill shows with my amp behind me and a wedge for my voice, and I love it. And then, funny enough, that little band in the little venue, and then I get on a giant stage with a mega band, I got the in-ears, and I hate it. But it's for the greater cause,
For the
right?
greater cause, yeah. I was going to ask, because I didn't have the chance to before, but how did the shows go in May? You did like 5 shows?
4. It was started out as 5, and then they didn't sell enough tickets for the 1. I'm finding out that these small venues, they don't know how to promote. So whatever you do when you go out and play, you have to promote. And it's not like putting one Instagram post up. Because people miss. I find that people follow so many people that sometimes they miss posts. Like, this still happens because I hate multiple posts because you feel like you're badgering people. Come and see me play. An hour later, come and see me play. Come and see me play. And then the next day, somebody still goes, you played last night?
Well, that's what happened in 2013. Remember you talking that last night?
In Liverpool.
In Liverpool,
with
exactly.
Dorje and
Drills and
you guys.
I used to play with, yeah.
And you know, you do a gig and you travel all that way, and you do the show to an empty room, and then you go grab a slice of pizza with the bass player Dan, and you walk in and they're like, Phil X, what are you doing here? I'm like, I just played down the street. And I had no idea. Of course you did. It would be too easy if you knew we were there. Everything's got to be complicated.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, people overcomplicate things, but I have a sense that nice one. I have a sense that you have this. You transpire positivity. You know, from the moment that I met you, I remember in 2013, you were always like extremely friendly, extremely smiley. And there's something that very good that comes out of you. It's good to be around you, and that hasn't changed at all. Maybe now that I get to even be more in touch with you, I sense that even strong. I mean, I have a sense that's even bigger on you now. Maybe because I don't know, everything is happening on your life, and you've worked so hard for things to kind of like, you know, be on the stage of your career that you are right now. But that's just a little compliment right there. But we will talk more about music. But I'd like to go a little bit back in time, and ask you how was your upbringing and how was your household? Where did you grow up at?
I grew up in Toronto, Canada, and which was great. It served its purpose as a place to grow up. I had a pretty big family. Very loving family. We're all still super tight. You know, I have a brother and two sisters, and my mom. We lost my dad in 2005, and that was tough. I think that's life changing when you have a tight family. And the thing is I grew up in a Greek household. So my dad played Greek music all the time. So it was either Greek music or Elvis Presley, because he loved Elvis Presley. So, you know, and I just remember watching Elvis Presley movies with my dad, and then I wanted to play guitar, and he played bouzouki, and he thought, well, if you play guitar, we can play together kind of thing. And it was a very modest upbringing in the beginning, because there was 6 of us, plus my grandparents, in a 2-bedroom apartment on Dufferin in Toronto. And when I was 5 years old and asked my dad for a real guitar for Christmas, actually got me a real guitar for Christmas. And it was like, and when I say modest, I'm thinking, you know, he's putting money in the bank, we're getting out of here, you know. And watching him, he always was down on his education because he went as high as grade 6 in Greece. And then he was in the army later, and because you had to go to work, right? So, you know, he was very, you're gonna get an education. You know, you're staying in school no matter what, that kind of thing. But, you know, be an entertainer too. So, you know, when I was 8, I had an Elvis Presley set. I played and sang Teddy Bear and Blue Suede Shoes. And so we were at a wedding, a Greek, you know, big fat Greek wedding. And, you know, there's 400 people there. And I got up and, you know, because my dad was like, hey, why don't you get up and sing? And I'm like, I don't know, there's a lot of people here. And he's like, you can do this, you can do it. And so he pushed me to do it. He told the band, they're taking a break, hey, my son's gonna get up and play. And they're like, no, my son's gonna get up and play. And they're like, okay, sir. Does he want to use my guitar? Does he want us to play? No, he's got it. He'll play your guitar, and he's got it. So you gotta imagine this is before YouTube. So you can't Google 8-year-old playing Elvis.
How old were you?
8. So if I was 8, that was like 1974. Cool. So no YouTube, no nothing. You don't, you know, like now you see it every day on YouTube, you know, a kid playing, singing, all that stuff. You know, 7-year-old playing Eruption. Mm-hmm. So there was 500 people at this wedding going, who the heck is that kid? What's going on? How can he do this? You know, but that's how my dad brought us up. He wanted us to be musicians and entertain. Because
they have the same approach with your brothers.
Well, I was the one that stuck with it. My brother, he loves music. He's a music lover. You know, played around with drums a little bit, played around with bass a little bit, sang like we do a jam, and he'd get up and sing Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains and stuff. But he's the other side of the brain. He's like, can you still sing Faith No More? No, but I can design the shit out of a microchip.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's that brain, and he's very successful with that. He lives in Texas now, and my sisters never really got into music. We all love music, you know. I played bouzouki, and I took that precision of the picking, and I applied it to guitar. So it kind of gave me an edge over my friends when we were growing up playing guitar, learning Eddie Van Halen licks and stuff like that. So music was always a part of my life, but the funny part was, you know, when my dad's like, "Hey, you got to decide. Hey, you need better grades in high school, and hey, where are you going to college? And hey, what's happening?" I'm like, "Dad, I don't want to go to college, and I don't need better grades because I don't need any of that. I just want to play music." And he's like, and we almost got into a fight over it, you know. He's like, "You're going to school," and I'm like, "Dad, I don't want to do it." And I go, "You always wanted me to be a musician." "Yeah, but I didn't want you to be professional." He just, you know, he wants you to be the life of the party, you know. But, you know, it all worked out, I think.
And then did you eventually go to college?
No, I went to the college of a van with 3 guys and instruments playing every dive within 500 miles.
And but then at the time, how did you work that out within your household? Like how did you somehow, not convince, but like to stay in good terms with your dad? How did you deal with it? Did he just accept the fact that, you know what, this is what's...
I think at the end of the day, your parents just want you to be happy. You know what I mean? And, you know, my mom was on my side. She's like, you know, we know an education is important, but maybe we give him some time to do this. But my dad, he wanted to be supportive, but he would say stuff like, you know, you have a better chance of winning the lottery than becoming big and famous. And I was like, thanks for the support, Dad. But before you knew it, you know, I was playing in a Canadian band that played Maple Leaf Gardens, which is where I saw Van Halen 4 times,
Wow.
and
I remember
Maiden 3 times,
Wow.
and Cheap Trick, and Aerosmith 3 times, and Black Sabbath.
And this is all still in Canada?
Yeah.
Wow.
And as a child, this is in my teens. Yeah, I was, you know, 14 when I saw a lot of those concerts, and he was the guy. He goes, here's some money for the concert tickets. You want to go? Go. You know, and so it was that was my education. You know, when I saw Van Halen, that changed my life. When I saw Cheap Trick, that changed my life. When I saw Black Sabbath, it was like, oh man, this is, you know, all that stuff is that's your education. You know, concerts. I knew I'm still a fan. I'm still a concert goer, and I know what I want to see when I go to a concert. So when I get on stage, that's what I become. I become what I want to see as an audience member.
What right now at this stage of your life, after seeing probably saw all your heroes perform, right? But right now, I mean, what's a concert that you've probably already seen it, but like you say, you know, I would love to see it again. Like for example, I love Iron Maiden, so I can see Iron Maiden anytime, any day. Metallica, same thing. But is there any like artists in particular that you would say, do you know what, man, I could see, you know?
Well, I get kind of picky. As much as I love Van Halen, I watched some YouTube videos from the last tour.
And you saw them at their prime.
I did. I saw, you know, Women and Children First, Fair Warning, Diver Down, 1984. And then I went to both. I went to 5150 tour with Sammy Hagar, and I went to Eat 'Em and Smile tour with Dave and Bai and Billy Sheehan.
And were you one of these guys? Did you used to buy the tour t-shirts? Did you buy any merch? Are you one of these people that collect stuff?
Yeah, but you know what's funny? I didn't know the difference. When you're that young, you don't know the difference between buying it in the venue and then buying it from a bootlegger on the street. And a friend of mine just sent me a photo of me wearing my 1980 Invasion Van Halen t-shirt while we're jamming Van Halen in his basement. He's playing drums, I'm playing guitar, and we're just jamming. And just seeing that it took me back. Like, I wish I had that shirt. What the hell? I wish I had some of the guitars that I don't have anymore. I wish I had some of the concert shirts I don't have anymore. It's pretty amazing.
But at this stage right now, do you collect, for example, say, were you a Bon Jovi fan before you joined?
I did. I tell people, I went to, I bought my own tickets and went to see the New Jersey tour at C&E Grandstand in Toronto. That isn't even there anymore. But I remember buying my tickets and being up in the
that must
bleachers.
be a surreal
It is.
experience when you look back and put things into perspective.
Yeah, I think if somebody would have said, "Hey man, you're gonna be on stage with that band in like 20-something years," I would be like, "Fuck you, no way." But I mean, I thought that was, I love Slippery When Wet. I mean, Living on a Prayer is a song of my youth. So yes, I was a fan. But you know, and getting back to who do I want to see now? I'd love to go see newer bands, and not that they're new, but the last concert where I went, holy shit, was Muse in LA a few years ago, and they became my favorite live band that year. It was like, oh, they're so good, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
but
they do.
I also saw a couple of years before that in Seattle, me, my wife, my brother-in-law, and my sister-in-law went to see Iron Maiden, and I'm blown away that Bruce Dickinson can still sing like that and be all over the stage. And I heard he like rollerblades all day long too in the parking lot.
Yeah, no, these guys they must have done something good throughout the years. And what I attribute to is the fact that they were throughout the course of their lives the absolute opposite of what the vast majority of people think. That they were like, you know, all on drugs, boozing all the time, going absolutely crazy, and you don't get to 65 years old or 62, 63 on that shape. You can't. You know?
I know, it's funny because I was in LA and when I first moved there in '97, and we went to a studio, and we were like walking around and showing us the studio, and we go into the back room, and I'm like, "What's that smell?" And he goes, "Oh, it's Bruce Dickinson's fencing gear in the corner." So when he's not singing, he was fencing. It's pretty amazing. I have another Bruce Dickinson thing where I was playing in a band called Powder in LA, and we got a small deal in the UK. And I think it was 2002 or 2003. We came here and we had a promoter and a publicist, and they hooked us up with a BBC Six interview. And on the way there, I'm like, "So is this interviewer cool?" And oh, didn't I tell you it's the Bruce Dickinson show?
Wow.
And I'm
So
like,
you did that.
"What?"
Yeah, he had the show, BBC Radio 6.
Yeah, so we walked in and Bruce Dickinson on a mic, and then we sat down on a mic, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I want to interview him, right?" And I'm here for him to interview us. And he was the only guy. Like, I've told this story a million times, and he was the only guy to ask this question. And basically, you know, he did his homework, or he's got staff doing homework, and he goes, "So you worked with Tommy Lee. What was that like?" And I go, "Well," oh no, he asked how it came about. And I said, I was, you know.
Please do get into that, because I was curious. I was going to ask that as well.
Yeah, see? So he you know, it's basically my Hollywood behind the true story or behind the scenes kind of thing, where I was literally painting the garage of the producer that was producing Methods of Mayhem with Tommy Lee in 1999.
Can I just ask something? When did you move to LA?
97.
97.
So this is 2 years in of me trying to get the band going and working a messenger service and painting and landscaping and delivering.
Oh, that's what you were doing as a day job, right?
Delivering frozen meat out of the back of a pickup truck with the freezer bungee cable to the back of the
This is up to 97.
No, that's when I moved there from 97 to 99. It was like whatever it took. And then 2000 to 2001, I started doing sessions. And I think it was 2003 that I didn't have to have a day job. I could just do sessions all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was great.
And what was we're gonna go back into the Tommy Lee and the producer story. But what do you remember? What happened, and what was the moment that you met a specific person that got you a job, a session job that led you to another job? What was the? Was there a moment that things somehow clicked, and you're like, okay, I see that I'm headed towards somewhere, and those jobs will keep coming back to me, because you work with so many, like, I mean, when you check your discography, the people that you recorded for, it's really impressive, and that's like many years ago, and way before the actual gig came to you.
Yeah, well, and the gig came to me in a completely different, from a different avenue as well. But it's what's funny about what I was doing was I just put it down, like when I do clinics and when I speak at schools, and it's like you just have to work your butt off. Because people say, you were at the right place at the right time. But what if you're at the right place at the right time and you don't deliver? Then you're the wrong place and the wrong time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If you don't work your ass off, someone's gonna knock on that door one time. And if you walk in, you're like a B game or a C game and you really need your A game, you might have shot yourself in the foot right there. So, but what happened was painting, moving to guitar playing, was I'd already done a few things for Scott Humphrey on some other projects. So I was painting at this point and doing errands and all kinds of stuff. And then Tommy said, hey, we gotta get a guitar player on this record. And Scott said, well, let's get Phil. And Tommy was like, the dude painting in the garage? And he's like, yeah, actually you should hear him play. So I came in, picked up a guitar, started playing guitar, and Tommy freaked, and he was like, dude, you gotta play on the whole record. And that's when Bruce asked, did you ever finish painting the garage? And I'm like, dude, no one has ever asked me, and here is Bruce Dickinson asking me that question. Which I actually did too. But at the same time, and that was one of the snowballs that started rolling, you know, because the next record that Scott was going to do was Rob Zombie, so the follow-up to Hellbilly Deluxe, which was Sinister Urge. So Rob came in and he said, hey, I love what you're doing on Tommy's record. Will you play online? And I'm like, sure. And then I'm playing on his, and then he gave Alice Cooper my number, and then I got the call from the producer that was doing Brutal Planet, which was Bob Marlette, and he called me to come in and play on that. And then more stuff with Scott. It was like Andrew W.K.
So it was mostly Scott?
Well, no, there was Scott, and then there was another avenue that came from Toronto, which was when I was still living in Toronto, I played on the first Our Lady Peace record. And Ray Maida, the singer, he had moved to LA and started producing stuff. So now he's producing Avril Lavigne. So he calls and says, hey, you want to come and play on something? I'm producing some songs for Avril Lavigne. So, and then it was Avril Lavigne and then Kelly Clarkson. And then now you've done some sessions with some drummers. And some people, you know, that have a drummer, and he'll come in and they go, hey, we gotta get a new guitar player in here. You know anyone? Oh man, I did this session with Phil X. Okay, call that, is that his real name? Yeah. So let's call Phil X. So Phil X, they call me, I go in, and then bang, it's Howard Benson, and then it's the first Daughtry record, and then a whole ton of stuff after that. More Kelly Clarkson, more, you know, you sing too, right? We're doing this thing, we need some background vocals on Theory of a Dead Man or something like that. So it's really
one thing that's another, snowballs, yeah. That's really amazing, because honestly, I myself, like, till just recently had no idea of, I did know about Tommy Lee project, the Alice Cooper project, Kelly Clarkson, the tribute they did, recording guitars at the Ramones.
And bass.
Yeah, and bass as well.
And bass.
But then when I looked at the whole session work you did, I was like, wow, that's
you know what's crazy about that?
Amazing accomplishment.
Because I forget, right? I forget what I've done.
It's a lot, yeah.
But then, what's been happening lately is, you know, people come up and they want me to sign "This House Is Not For Sale" by my picture inside the jacket, which is surreal, right? Like a Bon Jovi record with my picture inside. It takes a minute to sink in. But then, and then they bring drill CDs. So, okay, I've signed drill CDs before. But the last couple of events that I've been at, people bring a bag of CDs, and it's my discography. They got Brutal Planet by Alice Cooper, and they got the Kelly Clarkson record, and the Avril Lavigne record, and they want me to sign all these CDs. So I'm there for like 7 minutes with one person, just signing 20 CDs.
20 CDs.
Yeah.
I totally relate to that. I've done that in the past with Bruce.
Right.
When I was a kid, I got the whole Iron Maiden discography. He wasn't very pleased with that.
Here's the library, buddy.
Phil, I was going to ask, do you have any, are you a person that follow a morning routine at all? Is there any particular thing that you do in the morning that you like to do it even when you're out on the road, or perhaps the road changes slightly the way that you deal with that, obviously because schedule keeps changing all the time in terms of like where you're going and how you're getting that, but like on your life, is there any like a particular routine that you would follow in the morning?
It's I get to a point where I do have a routine. I don't think I'm there yet, only because it's only been a few weeks, and we've been having a lot of days off. Like we would do a gig and then have 2 days off, and then a gig and then 2 days off, and I hate days off. Hence the clinic today, right? But I feel like I like getting up in the morning and not even eating until like 1 o'clock. So I'll get up and have coffee, and then maybe go work out or go for a long walk. And it was funny because John Shanks, there was one day in Stockholm, and I'm like, man, I got up, and it was a beautiful day, so all I wanted to do was walk. He goes, well, let's look at your phone and see how many miles you walked. And I walked 7 miles. And
wow.
I didn't know I could do that. I mean, check it. But, and then I'm looking back, and 7 miles, 6 miles, 5 miles, 4 miles, 3 miles, because there was a gig or something. It's like, you don't know how many. I just want to walk around when I get somewhere, especially if it's a beautiful day.
How about going for a jog?
Right? I got trouble with my knees. But I'm working on
what?
it.
You know who always gave me that excuse as well? Kiko Loureiro.
I know.
And he always had, Carl, no, I can't run. I have a problem with my knee. And
yeah, but I have partially torn ligaments.
Oh, ouch. Okay.
Yeah, that's a little too. It's not an excuse. It's true. But we were talking about this before, and you go, well, maybe you could walk a little bit and then run a little bit and then walk a little bit. So I've been doing that on the treadmill now.
Yeah. Oh, have you?
I find my knees feel more stable if I hit the treadmill for 10 to 15 minutes. Any more, I found the sweet spot. Any more, and my knees kind of ache at night, and any less, and it's not as stable. So
I think there's some important points you should definitely follow. Like obviously stretch and warm up.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Proper footwear, don't know if you have like.
I'm wearing Converse are terrible.
Converse are not good. For
There's
running.
no support.
No, there's no support.
No, I'm not. Are we talking about stage or running?
Running.
Yeah.
Jogging on the treadmill.
Yeah, I got good Adidas joggers.
Because ideally you would like walk for a minute and then jog for 2 minutes and then walk for a minute, jog for 2 minutes. That you can do that, and if you start with baby steps, just like that, taking your time.
Yeah.
And consistency. You know how it is. You've got to be consistent. If you just do it like once or twice a week and then you don't do it for a week, I mean.
I try to do it every day.
Good. Very
Especially
good.
on gig days because I feel it more. But I do a lot of squats.
So you go to the gym
lunges.
in the hotel normally.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So I do, and then the other night I couldn't sleep and I didn't work out that day. So I worked out at like 11 o'clock at night because the gym was usually 24 hours. But I feel like the more you do it, like you're saying, the more consistent you are, the better you are at it. And then you miss it when you don't do it. And you gotta go.
And that's on everything in life, isn't it? Like if you don't play guitar for a week, you will feel the difference when you pick it up.
Yeah, it's not like getting on a bike. If I get on stage with the drills and I didn't practice the solo for "I Wish My Beer Was as Cold as Your Heart," I ain't pulling it off. And that's one song where because there's so many, I get so many comments about that solo. That if I don't do that first lick right, I stop the band and say, hold it, I gotta get it. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, and try it again, and then I get it.
Are you gonna clinic tonight?
I'll do the solo, yeah.
Amazing.
Well, it's one of those signature Phil X licks. I try to do as many signature Phil X licks as I can, and I try to give a history of the lick, like where it came from, and how my brain works a little bit. Because a lot of people a lot of people ask, how do I come up with my own licks? And it's, you know, how I said this today in another interview. You know, good writers borrow and great writers steal. And I'm like, screw all that shit, man. It's about disguising it.
Excellent.
It's about the disguise.
It's about disguise.
Yeah.
But we ended up not finishing the subject of like morning routine. I just asked that because I hear more and more listening to podcasts and like that, you know, a lot of successful people, they tend to follow a morning routine. And I myself, I try every morning to do pretty much the same, not because I want to have that particular structure, it's just because it's something that works for me. And I like to start the day on like, you know, having my meditation and then having my breakfast, my particular breakfast. I'm very particular what I eat in the morning, and then I do my run, you know, and I find that those things, because most people say, people have a routine in many things. They go to their 9-to-5 jobs, they study whatever they study in college, or they play their guitar, or they, you know, rehearse with their bands, and they do that with certain regularity. But then other areas of their lives, they just expect things just to happen like that. For example, meditation, something that we're going to talk later on about it. But things just expect, like running, same situation, any sport or anything that you want to do, you kind of have to, okay, I'm going to definitely give time and put time into this, because you can't just running, for example, people think, oh, I can run any time, but it's not like that. No. You really have to, you know, take your time and do baby steps and become stronger and get ready to do that on a regular basis. Otherwise you go nowhere. So that's kind of like the reason why I asked.
You know, when you're on the road, it's weird because you can't go to bed at the same time every night. And you don't get the same hours of sleep every night. So when you get up in the morning and you didn't get much sleep, it's hard to start, like, this is what I usually do, so this is what I want to do. Like, the first week and a half of a tour, I don't sleep. Like when we went to Russia, I got 2 hours sleep for 4 or 5 nights. And you're doing shows. And it's funny, you know what you need when you're singing? Sleep. It's probably the most important thing. But for me, it's like, and it took me a minute to find out that I can't, everybody has dinner at the venue at like 6 o'clock and then they go play at 8:30. I can't do it. I gotta stop eating at 5 and maybe have a couple of pieces of pineapple and some nuts before I walk on stage so I don't pass out. But I can't have a meal 2 hours before a show. I just can't. So, because I just feel heavy and all that stuff. But you actually, when you told me about the 1 minute, 2 minute, 1 minute, 2 minute with walking and running on a treadmill, that's when I came up with the 10-minute mark for going on stage, because I did that one day just to start out, and I felt the benefit immediately, like that night. Wow, my knees feel more stable when I run in the day. So thank you for that.
That's good. Yeah. That's excellent. That's really good, because it's generally one of the great things that you can possibly do to yourself, because it just, and there's no, you know, age. You can start with 15 or you can start with 70, whatever, you know. Yeah. There's no like, oh, I'm too old to do this or I'm too young or whatever. No,
my mom is 82 and she takes aerobics classes.
She's 82? Oh, that's amazing.
Dude, I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure, I'm positive, she still shovels the driveway. I'm falling and she's out of breath. I go, Mom, what are you doing? She goes, I just finished shoveling the driveway. I'm like, what? But I get that from her.
Is she still living in Toronto?
Yeah.
How often do you go?
Well, my family was just there visiting for 3 weeks while I've been on the road. So
visiting you.
I've seen my mom. I saw them around Christmas, and then she came to visit us in February, and then my family went to. I went to Toronto for a few days to see my family and my mom and everybody for about 3 days before I flew to Russia.
How are you finding now? You've been married now for 6 years, right? 2013.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And family, kids. How are you finding this situation of like being away for long periods of time and then coming back, and then dad is away, husband is away,
Yeah.
and then dealing with things like you just said, your wife is traveling, she's driving on the motorway and it's raining, and then you have all of those preoccupations, and then you're on the other side of the world.
Well, see, that's the thing. I mean, it totally took over my life, I mean, that's why the Drills record that we started recording, the one that we just put out, Volume 1, we started recording that in 2014. So that's 5 years. Because, John's calling, hey, we got Bon Jovi stuff. Then I got Daddy stuff. Then I got this stuff and that stuff. And that's all, it took 5 years to record all those songs. But becoming a dad, everything boils down to becoming a dad being like the best thing that ever happened to me. So my son was born in 2013.
Everybody says that. It's crazy.
It's incredible. Yeah. Especially being a musician, like when you're playing a mega band like Bon Jovi and you do 2 sold-out nights at Madison Square Garden, which is a dream venue when you're a young musician, being a dad, like, is above that. It's better than that. And I love, I'll play guitar, and my son's like, hey, what are you doing? And I put on the guitar on him, and I got him a miniature Flying V with all 6 strings, but I tune it to open G, so he doesn't have to fret anything yet. And you plug him into a little Black Star Fly, and he runs him around the house hitting an open G chord and doing pick slides, because he saw me do a pick slide once. So, and my daughter loves to sing. She's 3, and they both sing all the time, and music's a big part of our life. And he's also got a drum kit that he got from Tico for Christmas 2 years ago. And so he gets on that. And it's funny because all he wants to do is drum solo, right? I try to show him a beat, and he's like, nah. And he wants to just drum solo. But when other kids come over and they get on the drum kit, they just bash around. But when he gets on the drum kit, you see him do patterns. And I'm like, oh, you're hitting the snare, the kick, and the cymbal at the same time. And nobody told you to do that. That's pretty good instincts there, buddy. Good job.
How do you think you're going to approach, like, when time comes for them to make decisions in terms of, like, going to college or not, pursuing a career, whichever career they might end up being interested in? I mean, how do you think it's going to be your approach to that? Are you going to be supportive on whatever they decide to do?
Well, I mean, what we learned from our parents? What to do and what not to do.
Very true.
And my dad was amazing, but I would totally support anything. I think, like, my son might even want to be a chef, because my wife is an incredible cook.
Is she?
And he wants to help her, and she got him a little chef hat, and he's like not dicing anything yet, but she's like, hey honey, stir this, and he's like, I'm on it. And he's stirring, the cake mix or whatever. She's an incredible baker too. So he wants to help her. And
do you have a sweet tooth yourself?
I do, but I try to cut sugar out.
Yeah.
Sugar is my weakness.
But what's the say a treat that you ask her to cook for you?
Oh no, you know what I wanted to do, and I totally blew it when I got on the road. I wanted to be sugar free at 53. The whole year. Let's not have any sugar, like refined sugar.
Refined sugar, right?
Like, I mean, fruit is okay, just a little bit, but nothing that's got a lot of sugar in it at all. So, but I blew it when I came out here. It's because if you have a weakness, the road is gonna feed it.
Yeah. And those caterings, they're really good. I mean,
well, it's
traveling. I mean, it's all like those big tours. Catering is always great, and you stay on those great hotels with amazing breakfast in the morning. It's really difficult to. I mean, obviously, that gets to a point that it's not a novelty anymore. But even so, you get to see that all the time. It's just difficult to pass on, right?
But I try my best. And then last year, me and Obie O'Brien has been Bon Jovi's broadcast engineer. So anything that airs on TV or anything, or like now, when they put stuff on YouTube and it's a mixed show, it's a multi-track mixed show, Obie is a guy who mixes that. He's a broadcast engineer, but he's also been John's best friend for 32 years. Me and him, we have a ritual on show day. So we had to modify it because of the sugar thing. Last year, and the year before, we started there was an amazing show after us having a peanut butter and jelly sandwich at 4:38 the day of the show. So then we started having a peanut butter and jelly sandwich at 4:38 the day of the show. And one time he couldn't make it because he had to go home, so we had to FaceTime it.
No way.
We did a, hey man, cheers.
Seriously.
And so now I'm like, Obi, what are we gonna do, man? I'm not having sugar. So we started having peanut butter and bacon.
Oh my god, or peanut butter and bacon.
Peanut butter and bacon, dude. It's amazing.
Does it work?
Peanut butter and bacon on toasted pita.
Well, do you know what?
So you get your proteins and your fats and a little bit of carbs for the show.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't eat bacon anymore, but I do like a combination that here in the UK, people look at me like I'm a crazy man, but I love it. Let's see if you ever tried it. Cheese, cheddar cheese, normal cheese, with peanut butter. That's one thing. You roll it, peanut butter in the middle, cheese and peanut butter. The other thing would be cheese, Nutella or chocolate spread, roll it and eat it. Those two different things. However, you can, improve that. You can mix both Nutella and peanut butter and roll it, or you can make a toasty out of it with,
Whatever, everything you're saying right now, I'm throwing bacon in it.
You know what? I should have tried it while I was still a
While you're still eating meat?
Yeah, exactly.
Man, it's funny because I'm a big burger fan. If I'm gonna,
I love burgers.
yeah, so I go out and usually I get a bunch.
Have you tried the Beyond Meat burger?
The what?
Beyond Meat? It's a big one in
Yes,
America, and
I
it's
have.
just hitting us now here.
Yes,
That's delicious.
it really is
Oh,
because it really fools your mind.
Oh my god, man! We had a feast of
But-
that at 606 back in February.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus, sausages and beyond. Oh my goodness! Seriously, that stuff is incredible.
It really
It's
is.
really. I mean, people are saying that literally, like in 25 years, animal produce will be like totally non-existent. That's what people are saying. That in 25 years, on the way, on the scale that things are going, on the evolution of how those products are. I mean, it's just getting to a point that it literally tastes better than the actual thing.
Yeah.
Beyond Meat is one of those. It's really incredible.
Do they
Really
have
good.
Beyond Bacon?
That's the thing. All of the vegan, vegetarian forms of bacon, they are
Horrible.
a far cry from the real thing.
See, check this out. Because this is where the peanut butter and bacon came from. I was at a restaurant and I saw a burger. I was looking at the burgers, and I asked the server, I go, "What's your Mac Daddy burger here? What's the most popular one?" "Oh, our PB&J burger." I'm like, "Well, what?" So it's peanut butter, grape jam, bacon on a cheeseburger, and it was fantastic.
Grape jam.
Now I don't do jam now, but I get peanut butter, bacon on a cheeseburger.
Man, I mean, honestly, I would love to try that. I really would.
But you need Beyond Bacon and Beyond
Well,
meat.
but that's the
Beyond
thing.
burger.
My approach to the diet and to this whole subject is just basically looking back on evolution. How did we evolve to get here?
Right.
You know, we always ate meat. We used to hunt animals, and it would be a feast and a celebration in the family. So my approach is, I'm not radical. Do you know what I mean?
No,
I
but
do
I
make
understand that.
every now and then. When I say every now and then, probably like 5 times during the course of a year.
Yeah.
I will make an exception for like something like in Los Angeles in February. I love In-N-Out. I mean,
Wow.
I have a thing with In-N-Out. You
Yeah.
know, it's because
I
maybe
get it.
the first time I got to Los Angeles, the first meal that I had in LA was that, and I was having just a great time of my life.
See, when I go to In-N-Out, I have protein style, which is no fun.
Exactly. Yeah, because you don't eat bread, right?
I try not to.
Good. Very good. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think it always depends on like for me, bread is good. Bread is good to have around because.
Well, this is the thing. See, I try not to eat bread, but you know what my favorite thing is? Bread. Pizza. Pizza's amazing.
Pizza is
And
amazing.
then I love Italian food. So if you're not having like starchy carbs,
Mhm.
you want to kill yourself when you go. You can't go to an Italian restaurant and everybody else eat pasta and pizza and all that stuff, and you're having like, what are you having?
But how do you, I mean, if you so you just try not to eat as much as you perhaps would want to, but you do eat those starchy foods every now and then, like
Mm.
pasta and cakes and brownies,
it's once in a
and
blue moon.
Danish pastries and stuff.
No,
like that.
it'll be like not even once a week. I'd say once every 2 weeks.
So basically, catering, you just have say, at the venue you said you don't eat before the gig, so you always fast on dinner, basically.
No. And then you get on the jet sometimes, and
they have
food on the jet. So depending on what they have, and you know what, if you haven't had dinner, and then you do a 2.5 hour show, you're depleted. So you need to put something in there. And sometimes I'll just do nuts. But
on stage, you just drink water. You just have water.
Yeah. Or you could have an In-N-Out truck right by the stage.
And what's John's drink? Do you know where is he drinking? Is it tea?
He drinks water, but in a cup.
Because he has like 2 different cups.
Yeah, one cup is, I don't know if I'm allowed to say. No, it can't be bad. He's got a tea. I don't know what kind of tea it is, but it's hot, and he's got like 12 holes dissolving in his tea.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's... I've never heard of that.
I never heard of it either.
Have you tried it?
No.
I've never tried it, no?
No. Everybody's got their trick, right? My trick is, some people, we were talking about it earlier, some people warm up a lot. And
tell me about that. What's your, do you follow, like, are you very particular at, I don't know, half an hour before stage time, I have to do this, or how do you approach that? Both,
once I get my
voice and with the guitar.
Well, I do practice sometimes if I'm feeling like my hands aren't in sync, I'll go into the tuning room or warm-up room, whatever you want to call it, and I'll do some of the solos from the night. I'll do the solo to Raise Your Hands, the solo to Born to Be My Baby. And the solos to One Dead or Alive and Living on a Prayer are easy, but sometimes, once in a while, your left hand wants to go, no! So you just run it down, But I find if I practice too much, if I warm up too much, that doesn't work for me either, because my hands, I don't even know how to describe it. Sometimes you warm up not enough. You got to find the right place where you go on stage and okay, my hands are talking to each other, everything's good.
And when would that be for you? Like half an hour before stage time?
I start getting into my gear 30 minutes before. So like right when everybody's having dinner, I go into the warm-up room. Because then if everybody else is in the warm-up room, they're not warming up. Everybody, Hugh's on the bass. David Bryan does his keyboard warm-up, which is awesome. I watch him, he does all the complicated stuff that he's got to play in the night during a show. He does at triple speed. Next song. Okay, done. So he's got it.
Wow.
I know, it's pretty amazing. Everybody else does stuff slow. He does it triple speed. But vocally, I find that I'll just do like something. Like my background part in, I did it the other day, my background part in Born to Be My Baby, if I just do one chorus of that, I can go on stage and have a great show. Because Everett, he's our percussion player, and he also is a great singer, and he does a lot of backgrounds, and he's an example of warming up, singing, and cooling down. But we were in the van the other day, and Shanks asked Everett, he goes, okay, because Everett's played with Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, seriously?
So he goes, how does Bruce warm up? He goes, the first 3 songs of the show. And the same thing with Daughtry. Chris Daughtry is one of my favorite singers. And he takes the first couple of songs to warm up, does not warm up before he gets on stage. So, I mean, if it's okay.
It's it's very particular. We were talking earlier on about it, how people approach this.
Everybody has a different instrument. Not every technique works for every singer. So it's finding knowing your instrument and finding what works for you.
Going a little bit back when you're talking about you and O'Brien having your sandwich in the afternoon, is the band recording those shows? Like, is every show being recorded, like just
yes,
and saved for whatever purpose of?
Well,
and filmed, because I noticed cameras yesterday.
Yeah, and the cameras and everything that you see on the big screens at the show, that's all documented and it's taped on the fly, and then sometimes they tweak it because they have everything archived. Content. Today is a day where content is king, and fans want content. So we're not a live streaming kind of band, but if you archive everything and then put out, this is, hey, check out on the Bon Jovi site, we have This House Is Not For Sale from Moscow. And then next week it'll be, hey, I'll be there for you from Estonia. So I think content keeps everybody happy.
For sure, 100%. Yeah, the drills need to crack on that.
I know, man. I'm working on it.
Gotta do it. Is that an Instagram page for the drills? I tried to search for it and I couldn't find it.
Dude, I think there is, but I'm so. I need an intern, a staff of interns.
Staff of interns.
You can stay on top of everything.
Are there any subjects you enjoy exploring outside of the ones that we've been talking about? Like we talk obviously a lot about music and we talk about family, but is there anything in particular that you are curious about, that every now and then you watch documentaries or you read a book or you talk about it, and I know something outside of this?
Well, you do have to find something that clicks with you when you have downtime, because everybody says, "Oh my God, you're so positive," and "Oh my God, you're happy all the time." And I think I exude joy on stage because I love it so much. But I have a dark side, which is if I'm in a hotel room and it's raining and you can't really go out and go for a walk, because I love going for walks. I love seeing other cities, other countries. I love that. But if it's raining out and you can't go outside and you're stuck in your hotel room and you can't go down to the lobby because there's fans waiting there, and I don't mind meeting fans, but sometimes you're not in the mood, right? You could get depressed. So what do? Especially if, this is why I hate days off. Because if I'm not working, I want to be with my family. And because we don't have a Beam Me Up Scotty transporter yet, I'm stuck in a hotel room when it's raining outside. So this is where you have to find things that keep you busy. Mm-hmm. And for me, sometimes it's playing guitar, but sometimes you don't even want to look at a guitar on your day off. So I'm writing lyrics. Now it's poetry, and something's coming out that's creative, and that's the outlet that I have. And other times, because if you're really wishing your family, if you're really missing your family, and you do a FaceTime with your son, and your son, who is 5, goes, "Daddy, did you know that there's a different Superman, and he's got a spacesuit that's kryptonite proof? Do you know that makes him indestructible? Even if he's against Batman, and Batman has like a kryptonite staff." And okay, buddy, oh, thanks. Okay, Daddy, Mommy's got dinner on, so I'll talk to you later. And then you hang up and you're like, and you go from, that was the most amazing thing of the day. Now what? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you always need something that can, and sometimes it's you're binging on a show, or somebody says, "Hey, you got to watch this special by this comedian," because I love comedians, so I love to laugh like anybody else. So now you're watching Netflix all the time, and now you don't.
What'd you watch? Do you have any particular ones that they really like?
Yeah, actually, I just watched the first series of the Kaminsky Method with Michael Douglas.
Yes, I watched a few episodes. Yeah, I got into some of those episodes. Yeah,
but it goes from being quirky and funny to you're crying. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I love that. I love all the emotions are present. But so I watched the entire first series, I think, in 2 nights. And it's not a lot because it's Netflix. There isn't that many episodes. But there's also an animated Netflix series called Big Mouth.
That one I haven't heard of it.
It's about kids discovering puberty, and it's so hilarious.
And it's animated.
It's animated, and you connect with it. And I think one of the creators is Nick Kroll. He's been in movies and stuff, but he's.
What's the name again? I need to check
Big
it
Mouth.
out. Big Mouth.
Yeah, it's not for everybody, but I laughed more than I ever laughed in the first 2 episodes.
That's great. Yeah, sometimes I mean, honestly, there's certain, like, for example, I love 2.5 Men back when Charlie Sheen was on it.
Of course, yes.
And that's something that for me, if I want to have a laugh, if I'm feeling like not great for whatever reason, and I just need some external stimulus,
But the writing was amazing. You know, it's like The Simpsons. Simpsons is going on, what, 30-something episodes? Right?
Seasons. Not episodes, right?
Seasons, exactly. That's like incredible.
Yeah, but I think one of the things that made that so successful as well was the fact that Charlie Sheen was basically just being himself on the show. Yeah. Which is like, kind of like unheard. Like this guy becoming this massive character, and it's actually him. That must have been complicated to deal with, especially like, making $2 million per episode back in the day when he was the highest American television actor paid.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, hence why the guy went a bit
yeah,
crazy.
But at the same time, if he's gone, then you can't really carry on.
Oh, no, yeah. Well, they carried on with Ashton Kutcher, and I didn't get into it, to be honest. No, not really.
But it's one of those things like, everything has a recipe, everything has a formula that works, and when you stray from it, it's hard.
Do you think that if what's currently happening on your life right now, or let's put it this way, in recent years, last 6 years, being married, kids, being on like the dream gig of anybody, if it had happened, say, 25 years ago, do you think your approach would have been different to the whole thing? Do you think that you would have turned into maybe someone slightly different than you actually are now? I know it's difficult to, but like thinking to yourself, and trying to feel 25 years ago how you were dealing with life in general, and if being in searching.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're asking. I don't think I would have lasted, because.
But why do you think you wouldn't have lasted? Because you're not somebody that has ever been kind of a party guy.
No,
or
that's not
drugs
that's
or
not it.
alcohol or
I
anything
wouldn't
like
have
that.
known. Being at the age that I was when I first got the call, I had nobody had to tell me play it like this and sing it like this, because I did my homework and I was in the right state of mind to pick how I played stuff. I didn't try to put too much Phil X into the gig. Like I always say when people say, what's it like, kind of thing, So if you have Richie on one side and then you have Phil X on the other side, it's a guy in the middle that shows up and does the gig and delivers every night. I don't think I could have processed that 25 years ago. I would have tried to put more of me into the situation. Like even now on stage, I'm in the back seat. When I play with the drills, that's full on Phil X. And Bon Jovi, it's more reserved backseat Phil X. And then in Keep the Faith, when John goes, take the wheel, I take the wheel. But then he comes back and says, give me that wheel back. But he enjoys it too, right? He enjoys that we get, me and David and Shanks.
It's definitely a highlight of the concert.
We get to get our energy out and do our thing. So it's a really important part of the show. And it's always been John's idea. I'm gonna walk off, you guys do your thing, and then I'll come back. So I don't think I would have been able to process the level of my input at the time. Mm-hmm. I think it's just like, I don't think I would have been ready for fatherhood 25 years ago. Like I was 47 when my son was born, 50 when my daughter was born. So, you're doing the math and it's like, it's late in life, of course. And I love being a dad more than anything. But I don't know if I would have been ready 25 years ago. I'm really glad I waited. The math I'm doing now is my daughter's gonna be 16. I'm gonna be 66. So I need to keep going to the gym and buy a gun.
Eating well, going to the gym,
all that
jogging.
stuff. Yeah.
Do a lot of biohacking, like for example, the turmeric and the cinnamon on your coffee today that you're a bit
Yeah,
skeptical.
you biohacker, you. Sneaking that stuff in. What am I drinking? Dirt?
Delicious goodness for your system, my friend.
Totally.
Yes.
Well, you know what? We also found out there's always huge plates of pineapple backstage because it's a great anti-inflammatory for singing and stuff. So we're aware of that, and I know the strawberries have the enzymes and the blueberries have
Strawberries, you have to be
antioxidants.
careful. If they're not organic, they're one of the
Worst.
The
Yeah,
worst.
worst, yeah.
Yeah, because it's really, really bad. Actually, it's worse than.
I know, and I've heard tomatoes aren't good for you anymore.
Exactly, unless they're organic. Yeah.
But even organic, there's always a level of
Really.
yes. There's especially tomatoes. The way
And tomatoes are actually one of the healthiest. They are on the top of the
I know.
fruit and the vegetable chain.
But
as
the way even the organic ones are processed now, there's something that's on the tomato that is causing leaky gut in the world, which is the acid is eating holes in your intestines.
seriously. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we should
Okay.
Google. Everybody Google that shit.
Yeah, I will most certainly Google that shit because I want to know because I eat tomatoes every 5 days a week at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, talking about food. Yeah. Talking about food. Do you when you're at home? Do you again? I know I touched this quite a bit because I'm interested on this kind of subject, and I like to ask guests on the show. Do you tend to have the same kind of breakfast every morning, or is it's just whatever you have at home and whatever your wife is making for the kids that you're gonna eat a bit of that, or you're not much of a breakfast kind of guy?
I'm not a breakfast guy.
Right.
I mean, I love breakfast is my favorite meal of the day.
Wait a
It's the
second.
breakfast food of the day.
All right.
So sometimes I'll have breakfast for dinner, but I just find if I eat in the morning, I'm starving all day long.
Mm.
So to avoid that, I have coffee and water until 1, and then I'll have lunch, and then I'll have dinner, and then I'm done. It's like what do they call it? Like intermittent fasting almost.
Mhm.
You stop eating at 8 o'clock, and then you don't eat again until 1.
It's really good for you.
Yeah.
It is really good for you. I mean, have you ever tried longer than that? Have you ever tried fasting longer than that?
There's a couple of weeks that went by I didn't eat until 5.
Okay, but have you ever tried a 24-hour fasting?
No.
No?
But I've done the master cleanse where all you've had is liquids for 10 days.
What?
Yeah.
Walk me through. What is it?
Okay, so the master cleanse is basically water, lemons, maple syrup, and cayenne pepper.
Excellent. Okay.
So, and morning you make 3 bottles of this stuff. There's 3 lemons, 3 tablespoons of maple syrup, and 1/8 of a tablespoon of cayenne pepper in each bottle. I mean, if you can handle more cayenne the better, because it's like a scrub brush.
And it's powerful for your metabolism as well.
It really is, and erections as well.
Is it? Yeah. Good
I'm
thing.
53, man. So it's just a very I mean, at first, the first few days is really, really hard because you're not eating anything, and then after 6 days, you're kind of you miss chewing, right? Because you're just drinking liquid all day long, and then
you managed to go through days of just that. You
Yeah.
must have lost a lot of weight.
well, it's one of those things. It's if people do it to lose weight, but you can't do it to lose weight because as soon as you start, you wean off after a 10-day fast. Then you just have juice, and then the next day you can work in some soup, and then the 3rd day back, maybe you can have some vegetables and some fruit. But if you on the 4th day go to a cheeseburger, all that weight comes back.
But how I mean, wow, 10 days, that sounds incredible and incredibly hard as well. I've done 48 hours,
Yeah,
and I had
just like juicing.
no 48 hours of
Nothing?
just water and black tea.
You pass out, or you just don't do anything.
But that's the thing, you see. I think what happens to I think everybody should go through the process because when was the last time that you would consciously remember that you stayed 24 hours with no food? Never, because from the moment that you were born, you were fed, and you're never going to stay without food if it's not a necessity, and because that's how society is nowadays. Because there's a massive financial interest behind on people, eating for several reasons.
Most of the commercials on TV.
Exactly, and not only that, but like eating crap, because if you eat crap, you're gonna get ill, and then there's a massive pharmaceutical industry ready to give you a pill for an ill. So all of those things. But the fact is, you yourself, well, you went for 10 days. I mean, did you die? No, you won't die. I mean, we used to go for like thousands and thousands of years. Sometimes you would go days without food, and you would still have to go out there and run around and try to find and kill an animal to bring back home to feed your family. But the thing is, for me, what I can, not that I ever went through it, but I imagine a withdrawal. You get a headache, your mood goes down.
See, even coffee. If I don't have coffee for a couple of days, I start getting a headache.
Oh, but yes.
Because I love coffee.
How much you drink of the black thing?
I'll have a couple of cups in the morning, and then in the afternoon, and I stop at a particular time. Otherwise, you don't sleep. But on the Master Cleanse, no coffee, so you have a terrible headache because of that withdrawal of the caffeine. And then once that stops, you don't. People are like, how do you have energy? I don't know, but I'd go to the gym on the cleanse. I'd just go about my day. I'd take a bottle with me, even go out to dinner with the kids and my wife, and we'd be at a restaurant and they all order food, and I'm just drinking I'll have either my concoction or a tea, like a green tea or something like that.
Interesting, very interesting.
But so it's 10 days goes by, and then weaning off is tough too. But before you know it, you've lost like 17 pounds, which is, they say, is unhealthy. But then it doesn't stay off. Some will come back, and you just really gotta watch what you eat. But I do that when I feel like I need to. Like, oh man, I
don't think I could go for 10 days. It's something that I definitely one day want to try, but like with the amount of running that I do per week, it's just impossible to.
I'd be surprised to see what happened if you tried it, and if you could maintain your running schedule. I
don't think it's actually doable because. It depends. If you just go for jogs, that's one thing, but I actually follow a specific structured training plan. So I go on a track, and then I do 200-meter intervals at 80% of my capacity, and it's
so you're sprinting,
yeah.
And then you break.
Feel my friends. I just did between March and just 3-4 weeks ago. When was it? End of May. I did 3 half marathons and 1 full marathon. I ran Berlin half marathon in 1 hour and 23 minutes, and I did Hamburg marathon, which is 26.2 miles, 42k, in 2 hours and 55 minutes.
Almost 3 hours, 25 miles?
No. 26.2 miles in 2 hours and 55 minutes.
Hey man, I was just averaging out, man. Relax. No. 26.2.
Yeah, I'm so proud of that.
Almost 3 hours. Yeah. No, 2:55.
And I'll tell you why. Because only 2%. When you imagine people that run a marathon throughout the course of their lives, that's not many. Even though you see like thousands of people showing up on the starting line, that's still a vast majority of the world's population that will one day say, "Hey, I did a marathon," right?
Yeah.
And out of that group of people that say, "Hey, I did a marathon on my time," only 2% will run a marathon, a sub-3 marathon under 3 hours. So it requires a lot of training, a lot of consistency.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, no,
I knew another guy who ran a marathon, and he, I think it was 26.2 miles. And I think
it was a marathon.
It was 3 hours. But he goes,
that's great.
But he said it would have been under 3 hours if I didn't stop at McDonald's and take a crap.
Come on.
What?
No way. I mean, he's either a serious,
I mean, if you really gotta go, you gotta go.
You gotta go. I don't know if you're being serious.
No, I'm being totally serious.
Yeah. Okay.
He literally stopped at a McDonald's. I'm not making it up.
But so he is a fit man. To run a marathon in 3 hours, and that's including pit stop.
Pit stop. I should have just kept it short, like pit stop.
Phil, do you follow any? Do you have any spiritual practices? Do you believe in anything Zen?
I believe there's a higher power looking out. I grew up Greek Orthodox, but I had decided early on that it was very hypocritical, and even when I was a kid, it was, it was confusing to see all these Greek guys, these, uncles, friends of my dad, stuff like this, and it seems like everybody's, they talk one way and act another way, and then on Sunday, everybody's saved, so to speak, and as a kid watching that, I just felt like it was kind of, not something that I wanted to abide by. Is abide the right word? I don't know. Yeah. I do feel like, karma is a big part of our lives. I do feel like, how do you want to describe it? We joke about stuff, right? We joke that God's a woman, has a great rack, that kind of thing. But we, you learn about all these different religions, and you learn about all this stuff and read books, and my brother was the most, when he was in university, learning about engineering and computers and all that stuff, he read the Satanic Bible, and I'm like, what you doing? And he's like, oh, just, even the Bible says to know your enemy. And I was like, right, but I would have never thought in a million years to read the Satanic Bible, right? So everybody, you learn a lot from other people that you respect,
Do you know if he actually read the actual Bible?
Yeah.
Catholic, yeah.
I mean, we grew up, my mom put us in, we went to Sunday school, but we were learning how to read in Greek. So, you will learn about, I don't know, it's kind of a really weird, my mom wanted us to be normal, whatever she thought normal was. That's why when I was born, my grandfather's name is Theophilos. So my mom's like, Theophilos, what could that be, Theophilos? And then the nurse said, oh, well, could be Philip, And then, okay, so we're gonna call him Phil, that kind of thing. But, and she also, there was another family on the block that, they were sending their kids to a Christian academy. So my mom's like, well, let's send our kids to a Christian academy, because we were getting into trouble in the regular high school. So we went to a Christian academy, but then again, it was like every Monday, this was even further in than Greek Orthodox. This is like no rock and roll, none of this, none of that, and the anger of God and the wrath and all that stuff. And then you're trying to do the math, but your math is being interrupted by every Monday there was a sermon, and I had this friend, I'm going to go out and say, Dave Sims saved me, because he was sitting beside me, and the principle is like no rock and roll. You want to play guitar, you can play anything, but you can't play rock and roll, kind of thing. And then
it's the devil's music,
right? And then the pastor was like, okay, so if you don't want to burn in the fires of hell, put your hand up, and we can have a private discussion after the sermon. Everybody's heads bowed. And I'm feeling like, I don't want to burn in hell, so I'm raising my hand. And Dave Sims goes, can I have your AC/DC records? And the hand came back down, and screw that. And I'm serious.
You still have those records?
Yeah, man. I'm completely serious. I mean, because when you really dig deep into, you have to feel not only comfortable with what you believe, you have to feel safe, right? And I was feeling like, wait a minute, if God loves all his children unconditionally, why is there a wrath? Why is he getting angry? That's a condition, right? So
I love the way you just describe the whole thing, because it's when you put attention into it, it's all so manipulated and passed in and delivered to us and to kids and to people
in a fear-based
presentation. Because in a way it is a form of control, because you're trying to control. And what's the best way to control society, to control people? It's fear, right?
Yeah.
When you're under threat, you follow whatever the government or the authorities will tell you to do, because you want to be safe.
Yeah.
And that's like psychologically, it's a massive trouble to everybody, to especially when you're a kid, like getting your brain formed.
And that's what I was talking about when you're in church. When we were in church, when we were kids, they sometimes you stand and sometimes you sit, and then everybody stands and then everybody sits, and then you go, how come sometimes we stand and sometimes we sit? And the answer was shh. There was no answer. Just be quiet. We're in church. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So there's no answers. And then it was funny though, because I have a lot of respect for the Greek church. I baptized both my kids because my mom, I love my mom, and she goes, you have to baptize the kids. And I'm like, okay, I'll baptize the kids for you. But my kids were both baptized where I was baptized and where my parents got married 50 years ago. So I respect the church in that way, and there's actually a funny thing where the priest came up to me, and when I was a kid, the Greek part of the sermon was Greek, and the English part, so the kids could understand, was very broken. It was a broken English, very Greek, thick Greek accent version. So, but this guy came up to me, and his Greek was perfect, and his English was perfect, and I thought, oh, this is cool. My wife's gonna understand everything, and it's gonna be great, right? And then after the sermon, he comes up and he goes, so, I hear you're a musician. And I'm like, yeah.
Did you have your head down?
Right? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I used to rock the keyboards. I'm like, wait a minute, man. Yeah. I'm like, first of all, nobody ever rocked the keyboard. It was just kind of funny. It was a really funny story. And he was just a really cool dude, like you could feel like you could hang out with this guy, It was kind of cool.
Do you have family back in Greece that you know
of? There are, most of the family migrated to Canada. And, but my mom talks about cousins that she still has there, and nieces and nephews.
Did you ever acquire the citizenship?
Did I what?
The citizenship, the Greek citizenship.
I don't even have a U.S. citizenship.
But
I have a green card.
But that's what.
I know. So many. My brother actually wants to. We talked about it. He wants to get his Greek citizenship. So when he travels to Europe, it's like
exactly
yeah.
So much. It's so convenient.
We've talked about it.
It's extremely convenient, and I didn't know till last year when I was touring America and had 4 shows in Canada, and one of the guys in the crew. Basically, there was one of the guys in the crew that couldn't go to Canada. For whatever reasons, he got himself into trouble. He had a record, exactly. So he was basically not doing those 4 shows. So I had to go after Attack only for those 4 shows in Canada.
Wow.
Well, throughout the process, I found this guy. This guy was just like, honestly, management was like, you know what? The other one is giving us too much trouble. Let's just get this guy for the whole tour. But then, Canadian can't really work in the US. No. Have a Canadian passport. We would have to apply for a working visa. And I had no idea. I would have thought that Canadians and US citizens were kind of like Europeans.
There's
what I mean?
Border, yeah.
My goodness, I had no idea. I was literally like, because in my head it was always one thing.
Yeah. And I've had a few friends that were on tour and they tried to go to the US and they got stopped. about an issue that was 25 years ago. Like you'd think it would be off that person's record, but no, they're really picky, going either way. But it was really nice for me to get a green card.
It is honestly, wow. Yeah, for me it's the last piece on the puzzle because I have 3.
Well, I've just read today, my buddy Pete Thorne in California, he just got his citizenship because he's also Canadian, and he's pretty, I mean, I get it. He was like, I've lived here for so long and I couldn't vote and didn't have any rights, and I wanted to vote and have rights and have a voice. So I've got, he went and got his, now it's dual, Canadian and American, which is really cool.
Cool, yeah.
And good for him. And it's something I probably might do down the road.
Maybe you should. Maybe you should. Why not, right? I mean, if you
so I can at least vote, right?
Exactly. And to be honest with you, I think thinking on your kids, because that's what my parents did. My dad's side of the family came from Italy. My grandparents were Italian, and my grandparents from my mom's side of the family were Spanish. In the south of Brazil, it's very common that we were colonized by Dutch, Spanish, Italians, and all of that. So back in the day, my mom and dad, they just basically went after all the documents that were needed in order to apply for the Italian citizenship, not thinking of them, that one day they would move to Europe, but thinking about the kids. And honestly, it's one of the best gifts that they could have possibly given to me, because years ago when I decided to move permanently to the UK, if it wasn't because of that, with the Brazilian passport alone, I would have had probably a very difficult situation in order to get a visa. We have to prove a lot of stuff, and long story short, then that Italian citizenship, which I don't even speak Italian, never lived in Italy, led me to acquire my British citizenship, which now, on the face of the Brexit and all this bullshit that we just have no idea what actually is going to happen, puts me on a very comfy position of whatever happens, I'm okay.
That's awesome.
So, but then that's a thought for your little ones, because they would definitely be citizens of the world. Canadians, Americans, and Europeans, they can go and work anywhere on the planet. So, food for thought. That before we, I want to start wrapping up this amazing conversation. I have a feeling we could just.
And we went to a lot of roads here.
We did, and
it's a roller coaster.
Roller coaster, exactly. And I have a feeling we could just keep going, but that's a first. I'm sure we're going to be doing this again at some point soon. I have some roller coaster questions for you, but before I get into those, I just wanted to ask you something that was from the beginning of the conversation in the back of my mind, but I couldn't get into it. When and how did you get the call to do the first gigs with Bon Jovi, and just the gigs while you were feeling in? And did they explain clearly what was the situation, or was it something that you just did those gigs and then eventually you didn't know exactly what was going on and you didn't want to ask? What was that approach in terms of the bureaucracy of getting someone to fit in such a delicate situation? And then that's question number one. Sorry. Question number two is, when did they actually call and say, hey, listen, we want to talk to you and we want you to actually be in a band and record a new album? And if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a big thing, but it was clear, but it was also vague. I had met John Shanks at Henson because he had a studio there, and I was in Studio D, and he knew I was recording with Kenny Aronoff, they're brothers because they played with Melissa Etheridge together, and then Chris Chaney is a bass god in LA, sessions and stuff like that. So he knew Kenny. So it was like he'd walk in to the studio area. We're having lunch, and he goes, "Hey Kenny, hey Chris, hey guitar guy." He didn't know me yet, but then one day he came into Studio D where we were recording, and he came straight to me and he goes, "You are a funny motherfucker." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "I started watching your videos last night and I couldn't stop." And he said, it sounds, not only are you funny, you could play and sing anything. I was just really impressed, and I had to tell you. And I'm like, great. 2 weeks go by. I think 2 weeks. Let's just say 2 weeks. And he calls me and he goes, Phil, I think I got a gig for you, but I can't tell you what it is over the phone. Can you come by my studio tomorrow? And I'm like, sure. So I come by the studio, and he said, I got a call from John Bon Jovi because, they've had a couple of instances where Richie either couldn't walk on the stage or he got on stage and couldn't really perform. So he's in a position where he needs somebody on standby. And he asked me, because I know everybody, and I said, you. And I'm like, wait, what exactly are we talking about right now? You're talking about me filling in for Richie Sambora? And I thought, the first thing in my head is, you can't do it. Don't do it. Don't. You just don't even think about it. And he goes, yeah, and here's a contract, and here's a statement of confidentiality, and, I made a call to the lawyer and or the management, and there was discussions, and didn't talk to anybody in the band, and I couldn't tell anyone. And in the contract it was, you might come out, you might not come out, but we need you to be prepared. So you're gonna learn a 2.5 hour show and be ready. And it might be, you might get a rehearsal, you might get a sound check, you might just walk on stage. Wow. And I was like, this is crazy. So, even then, it wasn't about getting a gig. It was about helping out an act that might need help. And that was, I did. I learned the show. And when I said, don't do it, but that might be kind of cool to do it. And there was one point where I was running the show to a DVD that they sent me. They sent me a bunch of DVDs. These are the shows. Not only are you learning the songs, you have to learn the live versions and the live tunings and know what John's doing as a front guy with cues and this and extensions and breakdowns and come back up and double choruses at the end. So it was learning a show. So I'm in my living room. I had just divorced my wife. So I'm running the set with my pocket Marshall, a mic stand, and the lyric sheets. I'm playing the show with my dogs. And then at one point I just press stop and go, I don't want to do this. Forget it. Put the guitar down, lay on the couch, turn the TV on. What comes on? Bon Jovi documentary on HBO. And I was like, well, I guess I'm doing it. Because if there's a sign, there's a sign, right? So and then April, a few months had gone by, April 14th, 2011, John Bon Jovi left me a message. And I go, hey Phil, John Bon Jovi calling. We need you. Call me back. So I call him back and we start talking. And, it was like, I want to put you on hold for May, but it'd be cool if you came to New York at the end of the month and rehearsed with the band. And then I'm like, okay, so, and then holy fuck, it's happening. Okay, so really now there's no mucking around now, and they said, it's really important that you get the guitar parts perfect. There's a teleprompter for the lyrics. And that's a huge saving grace, right? Mm-hmm. So I came in and to rehearsal, and it just turned out that the day I flew into New York to rehearse, Richie checked into rehab. So I went from being on hold for May to you're playing in 3 days. So we rehearsed a little bit on one day.
You're nervous when you get that?
Well, it made it real, and there wasn't room in my anatomy for nervousness. It was, this is gonna happen, you're ready, and you're gonna kick ass. And that was basically it.
Excellent mentality, I love that.
Well, you have to, right?
Yeah, great, yeah.
You can cower in a corner, or you can show up. So
and kick ass.
Yeah, and that was my mentality, and I stayed true, but when when you jump on a stage with that band and you've never worn in-ears before, and you have to work around that, and I brought a few guitars, but I'm using Richie's 12-string and Richie's 6-string acoustic and his amps, and I just brought a couple of pedals, and I'm using his talk box. We changed the hose, and I'm just basically step into his position with his stuff and deliver in front of 50,000 people. It was New Orleans Jazz Fest, and it's a 90-minute set, and and John doesn't even say anything. Like, the true fans have heard about Richie checking into rehab. They know that they're going to the Bon Jovi show. They don't know who's gonna be in that spot, and I'm on stage playing, and John doesn't say anything until the very end when he thanks Phil X for filling in for Richie. Everybody's just looking at me going, "Who the fuck is that guy?" And then when he says Phil X, everybody's on their phone Googling Phil X. So it was an interesting, in your head you're thinking you've been singing and playing your entire life. Right now it's just the Bon Jovi catalog. You got it, no problem, right? So and then I did 13 shows, and then they said, "Hey, Richie's coming back. Thank you for doing such a great job. Here's a bonus for doing such a great job, but it's also an advance if we have to call you back." So, but he finished the tour, everything was great. I thought I was done, everything's, now it's been 2 years, it's 2013, around the same time, April 3rd, I'm at Trader Joe's, and I'm shopping, and the phone rings, and it's John Bon Jovi, and "We need you tonight in Calgary." And it's, what do you mean tonight?
And by this point, now you've been practicing songs.
I haven't played a Bon Jovi song in 2 years. I've done other gigs. I've played on other records. I've played with the Drills. I've done my own thing. And people are like, "Hey man, we'd love to hire you for this corporate event, and since you played with Bon Jovi, maybe you could play some Bon Jovi songs." I'm like, I don't play Bon Jovi songs without Bon Jovi. I just don't. And so I haven't. And it's kind of an interesting weirdness, because even now, when people, "Hey, everybody that you're playing with at this corporate event is playing songs from their careers, so can you do some Bon Jovi songs?" No, I don't play Bon Jovi songs. I didn't write them, I didn't record them. And they're like, "Okay, so what do you want to play?"
Well, just one quick question. What will be your approach with, for example, do you think that might change in the future? This house is not for sale.
Well, I did record on those songs, so if someone said, "Hey, we want to do Born Again Tomorrow," but no one's ever going to say that. You know what I mean?
I know.
So that made it a really, that made it like, oh no. And the one thing that John said was, "Hey, so we have a new record that just came out, so if you could learn 3 of those new songs and play them tonight, that would be great." And I just said,
Playing tonight,
"You probably don't hear no a lot, but no. I'm going to spend the flight to Calgary revisiting what I already knew 2 years ago that I haven't played in 2 years." And he goes, "Oh yeah, totally, I get it. But learn for tomorrow." Because that's how they work, right?
Did you?
What happened was they really wanted me to show up on time and walk on stage in Calgary, ready to go. But there was plane funk. There was a plane. I got on a plane, and it was broken. So we're gonna have to get another plane, but it's not gonna be ready for another hour. And then it's slower than that plane, so it's going to take 3.5 hours instead of 2.5 hours. So by the time I actually got to the venue, it was "Thank you, good night," and they were done. So
who played that night?
No, it was just Bobby Bandera. He's been the auxiliary guy, even with Richie in the band, since 2006. So he had never played Richie's parts. So he was playing parts that Richie didn't want to play, which was great because it was also the parts I didn't want to play. But so John had to play guitar all night, and Bobby had to play try to do it the best he could. And that's the thing. John doesn't want to play guitar that much. He wants to front a band. So I get it. So, but what ended up happening was I didn't play in Calgary, but the next day I had a nice lengthy sound check in Edmonton, and John's like, what do you want to run? Let's run this and this and this and this and this. And let's run these three new songs that you want to play, because I just learned those. And let's do the show. So we did the show, and then what ended up happening in this case was when I was done the month of April, I thought, okay, so Richie's probably coming back, and I'm done, and everything's cool. But at the end of April, they're like, we're gonna need you to go to Europe. And I was, well, I don't know if I want to go to Europe. You know, I have a baby on the way. I don't want to miss my son's birth. I don't want to miss, I don't want to not be there for my girl who's pregnant. She's, and they're like, oh. And then I left the room, and they had a powwow, a meeting of, we need this guy. We gotta do whatever it takes to get this guy. So and it came down to money. They called me the next day and say, so we're gonna give you a raise if you go to Europe. And then I'm like, okay, well.
And that's when I saw you for the first time at Hyde Park.
Right.
Yeah. First time that I saw you with Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
Hyde Park.
That was my first really big mistake too.
Why?
I went into the wrong song. That was my first. John works in clusters of songs. Like these songs work really well together, and then we changed these, and then these work really well together. So there was a cluster that was, it was a few songs and then Lost Highway. Well, at Hyde Park, he decided to stick Born to Be My Baby between the cluster and Lost Highway. And I looked at the list really quick and didn't see Born to Be My Baby. So everybody went into Born to Be My Baby, and I went into Lost Highway. And they're a semitone apart. One's in F sharp, one's in G. It was the worst in my ears of sound, and it's actually not so bad on YouTube.
I generally don't remember that. I really don't.
So,
but that's amazing.
Yeah, and then Richie didn't come back. But for months, it was like, is he gonna come back? It was a big question mark. And then once they decided Richie wasn't coming back, then the band started getting this real tight, really cool vibe. John felt kind of comfortable because I'm consistent. I'm the same guy every night. I deliver, sing my parts, play my parts every night, night after night. And for him to have that, it gave him a sort of comfort. And then in 2014, Richie officially quit. And then in 2015, we did the Pacific Rim. And in 2016, that record had already been recorded, but John thought, it can't be the Three Amigos. Mm-hmm. It can't be a singer, a drummer, and a keyboard player. That's not a rock band. We got Bill. Let's get him in the videos. Let's get him let's get him in the, on the artwork. Let's get Hugh in. Let's be a 5-piece band again. And that's when they said, now we have to get him on the record. So that's when I came in and recorded on 4 songs. And then I've been here ever since. And now I'm on the t-shirt, Carl.
Are you?
I'm on the bloody t-shirt.
Are you? Do you collect those? Do you keep?
I should, right?
You should.
I should have a t-shirt with my face on it.
Exactly. And like, the merch, I was going to say, like, do you collect those stuff? Like, I don't know, those...
I should. What they do? They give us... we can look at, I think I have a couple of shirts because they said, hey, this is the new merch line, what do you want? And then they put it by our wardrobe cases. And then yesterday they handed me the new 2019 program. Here's your program. And I'm like, all right. And I'm going through it, and there I am. And it's the program that I've been handed that, hey, can you sign your picture? And I sign my picture. Cool. And I sign the front.
I love this kind of stuff. I collect a lot.
I know.
Of stuff.
I wish. You know what I did with my Van Halen programs from the concert?
No, don't tell me.
No, I cut them up and put the pictures on the wall because it was like a poster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I go to my buddy Brian Tishy. I did some recording at his house, and we rehearsed for a cover gig. And I went there, and he's got all his programs from the same concerts, and I'm like, oh, I'm pulling my hair out.
I collect, man, all of it, all the concerts.
I wish I had the looking forward to to do that too.
I love like those pieces of kit that nobody can buy. You know, you go to a gig and then you get like a crew T-shirt or a hoodie T-shirt, stuff that only the crew can have. Man, I collect that. And one day I have like suitcases full of black touring T-shirts from gigs, from festivals. From
That's amazing.
A lot and a lot of that stuff. Phil, my friend, we could definitely keep going, 100%. That will leave us room for more conversations, and we didn't even talk about so much other stuff that we could talk about, but we're gonna have time for that. But we do have more work to do this evening, so I'm gonna wrap this conversation up, and thank you again for your time. Thank you again
Thanks
for
having me,
sharing those stories. And
well, you definitely went into some zones that I haven't explored in other conversations. So
well, that's great. That's great. I'm glad, and I hope that I'm sure that everybody will enjoy it, because it's always I like this podcasting, because it's kind of like we could be having this conversation in a bar, having coffee or having a beer or doing whatever, but here we're just recording. It's a conversation.
It's awesome.
It's not about interview. I have those 10 questions to run through. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a more of a personal approach to it, and I think that's something really, really cool.
And we have been having coffee and water, and I'm gonna have a banana when we're done.
You don't drink alcohol at all? Like wine with dinner or beer?
I don't like wine. I had beer in Ireland because it was awesome. And I'm a tequila guy, but I find alcohol dries me out. And if I gotta sing like I'm singing tomorrow at Wembley Stadium, I'm not
just
drink.
the occasional gig, Wembley Stadium, right?
So I'm not drinking before Wembley Stadium. I don't drink the night before a show. I feel it the next day. I feel like my voice is fatigued. And I got some high parts.
You really do?
I do.
Amazing, Phil. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, Carl.
I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation, this podcast, as much as I did doing it. So if that's the case, please do follow on Instagram at rollercoastercarl, myself at Carl Casagrande, on Twitter, same thing, Facebook, same thing. Do subscribe. Do subscribe on iTunes, subscribe on Spotify. That's very, very much appreciated. Thank you, and have a great, great day. Cheers. Bye-bye.